Today, perhaps more than ever, people are starving for meaning. The noise of modern life drowns out the quiet whispers of the soul, and in this endless search for purpose, the true strength of the human spirit reveals itself. This strength is not of the body, not of power or physical endurance, but something deeper. The resilience of the soul, the ability to stand tall in the face of suffering and continue walking, not just for survival, but for something far greater. It is the quiet, invisible strength of those who endure with dignity, and it is in them that we see the profound truth of Viktor Frankl's words. Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. In the darkest of times, when all seems lost, it is the power of meaning that carries those who endure. It is not merely survival that keeps them going, but the deep belief that suffering, no matter how intense, can be transformed into something meaningful. Frankl's own life in the concentration camps bore witness to this truth. In the most brutal of circumstances, he observed that those who found meaning, in love, in purpose, in small acts of kindness, were the ones who survived, who transcended their pain. This power of meaning does not come from avoiding suffering, but from choosing to see it as a pathway to growth, a chance to transcend. When one finds their why, whether it is the memory of a loved one, a dream to fulfill, or a cause to fight for, that purpose becomes an anchor, a light in the darkness. Even the most harrowing trials are seen not as mere punishment, but as a canvas upon which the soul can paint its deepest truths. The person who endures with dignity does not define themselves by their pain, but by the meaning they create from it. Pain becomes a vehicle, a stepping stone, not an obstacle. The world may strip away everything they hold dear, but it cannot take away their ability to choose meaning in every moment, in every step forward. This is the first strength, the ability to transcend suffering by finding meaning in it. And yet, this power of meaning is not passive. It demands something of the individual. It calls for responsibility, the second hidden strength. Frankl often spoke of the responsibility each person has to live in accordance with their own sense of purpose. It is not enough to simply endure suffering. One must choose to bear it with responsibility, a responsibility to oneself, to others, and to the larger world. This is not about being a victim of fate, but about accepting one's role as the author of their own story. Those who endure with dignity take full responsibility for their lives, for the meaning they create, and for their actions, no matter how small. They understand that the circumstances of life may not be within their control, but their response to those circumstances always is. It is in this response, this ability to choose their attitude, that their power lies. Responsibility is not a burden, but a gift. It is the realization that no matter how dark the world becomes, we still have the freedom to decide who we will be in the face of it. To endure with dignity is not to submit passively, but to actively engage with life. The individual who embraces responsibility refuses to be a passive observer of their suffering. Instead, they see it as their task, their duty, to create meaning from it, to learn from it, and ultimately to use it to rise above it. They know that each moment, no matter how painful, carries the potential for transformation. It is through this conscious choice to take responsibility that the human spirit rises to its fullest potential. Yet, even as they carry this deep responsibility, those who endure with dignity are not isolated from the world. They are deeply connected to something larger than themselves, something that often transcends their own personal suffering. This brings us to another hidden strength, the power of connection. The individual who faces hardship with grace understands that suffering is not something to be endured alone. The human experience, in all its trials, is shared. To connect with others in their pain, to find solidarity in suffering, is a power that cannot be overstated. Frankl's time in the concentration camps showed him the truth that the most enduring souls were often those who found connection with others, even in the most dire circumstances. whether it was a small, quiet act of kindness or the bond of shared suffering. The human capacity for connection, for love, empathy, and compassion became a lifeline for those who endured. It was through these connections that they found the strength to continue, to rise above the torment, to fight for life even when everything seemed designed to take it away. Love, in all its forms, is not only a source of solace, it is a source of power. When faced with the most crushing pain, those who endure with dignity do not retreat inward, but extend outward, choosing to connect, to give, to be of service. Whether in the form of a family member, a friend, a fellow prisoner, or even a stranger, these bonds are the silent but powerful forces that sustain them. Love and connection are not mere emotional comforts, but vital sources of strength. To love and be loved, to connect and share. This is a form of transcendence that elevates the soul above the suffering it faces. But love is not only for others, it is for the self as well. The person who endures with dignity learns to love themselves, not in a shallow, narcissistic sense, but in a deeper, more profound way. They come to accept their imperfections, to honor their pain, and to recognize the inherent worth in their own existence. Self-love, in this sense, is not about seeking validation or avoiding suffering, but about embracing the totality of who they are, flaws and all, and choosing to rise above those limitations. This self-love becomes a foundation upon which the person can build their endurance. This connection, both outward and inward, brings with it the strength of transcendence. Transcendence is the ability to rise above the narrow confines of one's self, to look beyond the immediate suffering and see the larger picture, the greater purpose. Those who endure with dignity are not only enduring their pain, they are using their pain as a bridge to something beyond themselves. In the moment of suffering, they choose to rise, to see their struggle as part of a larger human story, one that stretches across time and space. To transcend is to realize that suffering is not a personal affliction, but a shared experience. The individual who endures with dignity understands that their pain, while deeply personal, is not theirs alone. It is a part of the human condition, and in choosing to transcend it, they connect to something universal, a collective strength that flows through all of humanity. This recognition of transcendence brings with it a sense of liberation. No longer trapped in the narrow confines of self-pity or despair, the person who transcends their suffering begins to see it as an opportunity for growth, a chance to contribute to the world in a meaningful way. This is where the true strength of the human spirit lies. It lies in the ability to transcend the self, to rise above the suffering that seeks to define us, and to find meaning in even the most painful of experiences. It is in transcendence that we find our ultimate freedom, the freedom to choose how we will face life's trials, to choose how we will transform our pain, to choose how we will live with dignity and purpose. And in this transcendence, we find yet another hidden strength, the strength of hope. Hope is not the naive belief that things will always get better, nor is it the expectation of future rewards. Hope is the deep, unwavering conviction that no matter what happens, life is worth living. It is the knowledge that, even in the darkest of times, the human spirit has the capacity to endure, to find light, to rise above. Hope is not something that is given to us. It is something we choose, something we cultivate, something we create with each step we take, no matter how heavy, no matter how painful. Hope is the seed that grows within us, even in the soil of suffering. It is the quiet voice that whispers, "This too shall pass," even when the storm rages. It is the belief that we can endure, that we can find meaning, that we can transcend our pain. Hope is the companion of those who endure with dignity, the light that never fades, even when the darkness seems all-encompassing. Hope, like meaning, is a choice. It is a decision to look beyond the present suffering, to see the potential for growth, for transformation, for transcendence. It is in hope that we find the strength to keep going, to continue walking through the storm, knowing that, on the other side, there is a greater purpose awaiting us. The final strength, perhaps the most profound of all, is the strength of inner freedom, a concept that is both simple and deeply complex. Frankl understood this intimately. No matter how great the physical suffering, no matter the oppression or the hardship one may face, there remains an unshakable truth: the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. It is this freedom that becomes the ultimate source of power for those who endure with dignity. This inner freedom does not deny the reality of suffering. It does not ignore the pain that is part of the human condition. Rather, it embraces the fact that while circumstances may be beyond our control, our response to those circumstances is always within our grasp. This is a power that no force in the world can take from us. The power to choose how we will meet the trials that come our way, to choose how we will face the storms of life. The person who endures with dignity is not one who simply accepts suffering passively, nor one who is consumed by bitterness or rage. They are, instead, those who embrace their freedom to choose their response to suffering, who choose to rise above the pain and use it as a means of growth. Their freedom lies not in avoiding suffering, but in deciding how they will live through it. This inner freedom becomes a profound source of strength. It is the ability to transcend the circumstances, to see beyond the pain, and understand that, while we may not control the external world, we always control our inner world. It is a quiet revolution of the spirit, the realization that, in the end, the most powerful force we possess is not the ability to control everything around us, but the ability to choose our attitude, our thoughts, and our actions in every moment. It is in this inner freedom that we also discover the liberation of letting go of the need to control, to fix, to know. Those who endure with dignity know that surrendering control is not a defeat, but a victory. It is the realization that by accepting the uncertainty of life, by releasing the need to control every outcome, we free ourselves to live fully. This liberation comes not through avoidance, but through acceptance. It is the acceptance of suffering, of pain, and of life itself, exactly as it is. And in this freedom, the person who endures with dignity is also able to transcend the self. When one is freed from the need for control, when one is liberated from the burden of self-pity and victimhood, there is space for something greater, something far beyond the confines of personal suffering. In transcending the self, the individual opens themselves up to the vast expanse of the human experience, to the universal connections that bind us all together. The suffering they face becomes a means of contributing to the world, of making a difference, of leaving a legacy that is greater than their pain. The enduring person becomes a beacon of light, not because they are free from suffering, but because they have chosen to live with meaning, to endure with dignity, and to transcend their pain in service of something greater. This is the ultimate freedom, the freedom to choose one's response, to find meaning in the midst of suffering, and to live with dignity in the face of adversity. In the end, we come to understand that the power to endure with dignity lies not in avoiding suffering or seeking comfort, but in the ability to choose how we will meet each moment. The person who chooses meaning, responsibility, connection, transcendence, hope, and inner freedom becomes not just a survivor of their circumstances, but a true master of their fate. This is the profound lesson Frankl imparted, that no matter how deep the suffering, no matter how great the darkness, the human spirit has the ability to rise above. The one who has a why can endure almost any how. And in the end, this truth becomes the source of our strength, not in the absence of suffering, but in the transcendence of it.